Alrighty. So I figured I would go over the new Fatewoven. Luckily, this is a spawn that you can calculate exactly how much it'll cost to get one of the monsters. So I'll just go over how you could calculate that. So you get 10 free, plus you get one a day. There's 14 days, plus on the last day at 11 or 12 or something like that, 10 o'clock, that like an hour or two before they go on maintenance, you can do it again. So you should be able to get like around 15 total. So 15 you get from the dailies plus the 10 gives you gives you 25 right off the bat, and you need 250. So if you multiply 225 times 3, because it's 3 gems per medal, you get 675. And then I subtracted 15 gems because the first one, the first spawn that you do is half off, as you can see. So that's a total of 660 to get a monster. So are the monsters worth it? I mean, the monsters are what you would probably be wanting to spawn this for, or the defense gear. But I'll get to both. So we got John Doe. He applies absolute, so that's triple offense proc, mastery, which is triple defense proc, elevation and concentration. So elevation increases your chances of offensively procking, and concentration increases your chances of defensively procking. He gives rage and protection. This form is insane for PvP, for guild battles, for PvE. This form is just crazy. Now, it has some drawbacks in PvP specifically, like Colosseum and stuff like that, because it doesn't just straight up kill the enemies, but it does do a pretty good job of setting you up for success. There's no penetration, but if you're throwing multiple monsters, this will have some nice procs. Like you'll have one or two other people who are throwing with you. If this is a solo throw, it's not really that good for PvP. But assuming that there are some other people throwing stuff, you will have mastery, which helps you survive when you're getting attacked. You will have absolute, which helps you kill people, and then you get bonuses to your defense procs. So overall, I like this for general PvP. However, if you're solo throwing, this is not a great monster. For solo throwing in PvP specifically, this form is like maybe a 3 out of 10. You're not getting any penetration, and you're not really boosting allies unigauge or unison, and you're not demoting the enemies at all. It's missing some things. But if you're throwing it in combination with other people, I like it. So it's like a 7 out of 10 for PvP. For PvE, I really like this monster because it applies a bunch of unique buffs, and 150 seconds on elevation and concentration is excellent. Absolutely amazing. Getting mastery and absolute is the first monster ever that does both, and at least that I can remember, that gives both. And it's the first monster ever that gives all 4 of these things. This monster is insane for PvE, for questing and stuff like that. I would rank this monster a 10 out of 10. There's hardly any monsters that are going to do an overlap with this monster, and this is a really good combination. You can't really go wrong with this. You are missing, so just to be clear though, if you're solo throwing any of the Fates Woven, you're going to be lacking. And the reason is because they don't really give you field and they don't give you crest. So I'm assuming when I'm talking about PvE, I'm assuming that other people are throwing monsters like crests and fields and enemy fields. So yeah, just keep that into account with why I gave it a 10 out of 10. For guild battles, I really, really like this monster, but I might not like this form of this monster. I'll get to the other form in just a second. I like this side though. These are all pretty good procs. The Absolute and Elevation can absolutely win you a game. Our guild could probably one shot. I know we have one shot in about under 5 seconds with field 200, like 200% buff, absolute, elevation, and crest. So if you have all four or all five of those, we've one shot in like 4 seconds. So, and I think we've also one shot with crest, absolute, and elevation. So if you have like one other monster thrown with this monster, you could probably one shot. I would imagine that if you had, I have her because she was just that good. I basically was required to get her. If you had her, she applies field, she applies 180 buff and vital strikes. You could probably one shot with alpha, like with I think most guilds could one shot with an alpha John Doe in red form throw. So I like this monster. I also like the fact that it has mastery. The reason is because if the enemies do not get absolute, then the maximum that they can proc is only 2. And usually high level guilds will have the ability to double proc things that give 7XL. So for example, if I take this off, this one. So this one procs at a 7XL plus. And so assuming that you get a double proc, you're at 14XL. Now, if you're defense procking against that and you triple proc, so we're assuming triple proc against 14, you'd be at 4XL plus. So if you do that twice, I guess it wouldn't be 14XL plus, it'd be like 15XL. So we'll just call it like 15XL. And then triple procking would be 8XL plus 1 would be 9, plus another 4 would be like 13XL. So you'd essentially only be boosting attack by like 2XL plus or 1XL plus or something like that, which is not a lot. And there's a high chance that the enemies, that you can survive it, even if they are proccing with some of these crazy damage procs. So the likelihood that you can survive in a defensive situation isn't bad. I mean, you would still, in my opinion, need some things. You might need resurrection. You could use miracle. You might need fortify. You might need something like chipped blade or erosion would be good too. You might need something against like mega whales, but this gives you a pretty good chance of surviving an enemy. And if you survive one attack, you can throw uni again and you have a chance of winning. So I like this for guild battles. I don't think it's bad monster for guild battles, the red form. Now the blue form. This one increases values against light and time, which is really good. Penetrates, hits only 3 times. I'd like to see that number upped, but it's whatever. Abstraction doesn't really do anything anymore because Pandora, so why bother? Physical and magical penalty. I'll be honest, I don't really remember what they do. If I had to guess, I think these are the ones that make it so that you can't proc, or you don't get the bonuses to proc with certain attacks. So for example, if you use a physical move, you can't physically proc, but I'll be honest, I don't really remember. Rage is like whatever. Serenity is okay. And Rage and Serenity together isn't bad. And then Protection, the bubble is also bad. So this one also has a protection bubble. It's just like whatever. I like this form if you are trying to win Clash, but I would use the other monster. I would use the light monster if you're trying to win Clash. There's nothing here that's popping out to me that's like, wow. Horrible in PvE. Decent in PvP because of abstraction. But again, it's pretty easy to stack defense against light and dark and time. So I don't really like that a whole lot just because of its element. So I'd probably not use this in PvP a whole lot. I probably wouldn't use it in guild battles unless I was specifically trying to win Clash. And I knew that the enemy was going to use light, dark, time star, time, like TTDLS. If I knew that they were going to use that. 60k in stats is what you'd want. Insanity resistance is really good, but it's kind of, we're in a weird situation right now. Insanity isn't really being used a whole lot, especially in guild battles. The reason is because people are just dying in guild battles. We've moved to like a super kill heavy meta. And if nobody is able to survive long enough for something like Insanity to do anything, then Insanity doesn't do anything. Yeah, it's a really weird situation right now. Insanity resistance, all the resistances are not super important. And now that's not to say that they're not going to be in the future. It's just something that if you're super guild battle oriented, it's kind of an interesting dilemma. There's not really, I've been talking with some other people about this. There's not really any way to survive against somebody who's wanting to kill you. Besides using some abilities like Chipped Blade and stuff like that. So, and Calamitous Howl, and we're in a weird meta right now. We're in a really weird time. So Insanity resistance, though, normally I would really like this. The dark defense, 1,000's okay. I would much rather see something like 700 in dark and 700 in light, because that would be 1,400 total. That would give you way more, but 1,000 is not bad because it gives you 1,000 against light and time. So a total of 2,000 is like, okay. Paralysis and psychological contamination. Paralysis is not used much anymore. And so if I could just pronounce it, psychological contamination is pretty minor. I think most people run enough abilities that psychological contamination doesn't do enough. If you don't know, psychological contamination is an old debuff. It basically disables a random ability, and I think it can stack up to 3, disabling a total of 3 abilities. I'm not sure. It's a really old thing, but it can be cleared with stuff like recover. So as far as I know, it used to be able to be clearable by basic status ailment cleanses. So it's pretty easy to get rid of nowadays. And it's not a lot of monsters apply it. So it's pretty useless, and hardly any abilities apply it either. It's a really weird one. Now, let's get to the light monster. I'm gonna mess this one up. Kantyu. I'm just gonna call her Kantyu. So she applies Erosion, Grace, Fortify, Counter Heal, which is a total joke. 7 times 0, 7 times 0 damage, and then all allies Miracle and Redoubt. The other version, I'm just going to go over that one as well, beats Dark and Time, hits 3 times with penetration. So this one's better for guild battles. It's Chipped Blade, Grace, Fortify, allies Reflection 50%, Miracle, and Redoubt. So it's almost the exact same thing. If you notice this one, they both have Miracle, Redoubt, and Fortify. I believe they both have Grace as well. Yes, both have Grace. So really what we're swapping between is hitting 5 times with 500 ability power, which, by the way, 500 ability power is really bad with no penetration. And Erosion. So Erosion and 7 times 0 damage is swapping out for Chipped Blade and Reflection at 50%. I really wish that Chipped Blade and Erosion were together. like the Absolute and Mastery were for John Doe. However, this is an interesting monster. I think specifically this side is probably better in most cases. For guild battles and PvP, I'd probably end up using this side just because of the penetration. Chipped Blade is better in my opinion because most defense procs, especially the best defense procs in the game, give give damage reduction or damage reflection reduction. And in my opinion, Chipped Blade is way, way better because if you're going to defense proc and you have a damage reduction proc and they can't get past your damage reduction, then you have the greatest chance of survival with Chipped Blade. Grace is, whatever. Fortify isn't bad. The problem that I have with Fortify is that it can be time sliced. I think they need to modify the way that Fortify works because right now Fortify can be time sliced, and time slicing Fortify is like it's kryptonite, and I feel like it's already pretty bad. So like Fortify was a really nice idea, but I just feel like it's not doing the amount of protection that it needs to do. I think people still explode. So it's whatever. 50% damage reflection is actually really cool here, right? Because you're applying Chipped Blade, so now the damage reflection is unavoidable. So if the enemies are applied with something like Abstraction or the Pandora Field, and it turns off their constants, they'll just kill themselves when they try to attack you. When they'll attack you, the reflect will kill them. If they don't, if they have their passives, you're cutting their damage in half by 50%, which is awesome. Miracle is excellent. It's a way better resurrection. My biggest problem with Miracle is it only applies once per round. So in really long quests or really hard quests, Miracle will save you, but only once. Redoubt is, whatever. So out of the two forms, I don't even really think it's worth using this form, in my opinion, because in things like guild battles, or in things like guild battles and PvP, getting hit with 0 doesn't increase your uni. So there's always a chance that you take damage and the enemies will get destroyed because you'll take damage and gain uni, and then you can uni and win. But if you take 0 damage, you're not gaining any. You're not gaining anything. And the enemies can still ignore your damage reflection and damage reduction. A lot of abilities nowadays hit 7 or more times. There are lots of abilities, multiple abilities that hit 10 times total. So that won't even protect you against one ability, one attack. And imagine that 5 people are all attacking you. It just seems like this is a garbage. So like this, I would never use ever. I would always use the blue mode because it just is across the board better, in my opinion. But the blue mode's not bad. I think defense monsters as a whole really get a bad rap and are not up to snuff. But she's not bad. I would say we'll start off with guild battles. I'd say for guild battles, she's definitely not bad, but she's not a top tier monster. You can't really expect that the penetration is going to do anything. So you can't expect to kill anyone with this. And you never want to be in a situation where you're relying on Chipped Blade, Fortify, Miracle, Redoubt, any of these things in a second round clash. You don't want to be in that situation. However, you may end up in that situation. And so having a monster that can apply these debuffs is beneficial, because if you kill, let's say that you win the clash, you end up killing 3 of them, but 2 of them survive, and then they use unis as long as they don't remove things like chipped blade. And even if they do remove chipped blade, the fortify will help you survive their attacks, and the miracle will help you survive their attacks. Even the damage reflection will help you survive their attacks because it'll reduce their damage as long as it doesn't penetrate, as long as those monsters don't penetrate. So overall, I really like this monster as a survival uni as part of your throws. Now, would I make this a staple? Probably not. This would be one of the few monsters that I would throw out of a uni throw composition early on, because I would much rather rely on damage and monsters and buffing that would kill the enemy or prevent them from uniing so that they're stuck. However, that doesn't always play out the way that you want to. And I definitely see the benefit of this monster. So I'm going to put her as a second round guild battle throw. I'm going to put her at like an 8 out of 10. I think she's really valuable in some situations. And I think that she has the potential to win you a guild battle match. Now, in first round guild battles, I think that it's a little bit different. I think that in first round guild battles, she might be an incredible asset only if you're about to lose. So here's the example. It's the first round. You are losing. So they have killed multiple allies, and you know for a fact that they're trying to build uni. They're going to throw a buff monster and they're going to go to crystal and win. To prevent that, you can throw this monster, which will disable their ability to kill you, which will apply Fortified to yourself and potentially kill all of the enemies if they try to attack you with Reflect. It'll also apply Miracle, which should allow you to gain uni and survive any attacks that they do to you. So overall, I like this monster. However, you're missing some key aspects. You're missing a field lock on the enemy side. You're missing an enemy field just that would prevent them from gaining uni. You're also missing uni downs and uni ups for your team. There are lots of things that you're missing for round one. However, if you're about to lose and you have to throw a monster, she would be an acceptable monster to throw in a round one uni. I think that I would rate her probably a 6 out of 10 for a round one uni. Now, if you're winning and you're trying to go to uni in round one, so let's say that you're the team that's winning and you're trying to one shot, she's useless. I'd say she's maybe like a 2 or a 3 out of 10. The only reason I'm saying 2 or 3 out of 10 is because maybe the enemies are close to uni and they have the potential to kill you. So if you need a couple seconds to build up and you don't have any monsters in your set, but you have her, then I like her. However, you have to be careful because she could end up killing the enemies. Now, keep in mind, light and dark and time, I've already talked about this, are really easy to build uni defense against, so they don't usually do a lot of damage. However, there are lots of people who have focused right now on having high fire defense, and they have neglected the main core elements that are usually dominant because Pandora is just so oppressive right now. So there's a chance that this just kills people. So you have to be careful, especially round one. In PvP, I like her as a group throw. As a group throw, I'd say she's like an 8 out of 10. Maybe a 9 or a 10 out of 10 as a group throw, just because she helps you survive. And every tiny point matters. So in some aspects, I really like her for Coliseum as a group throw. As a solo throw, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'd say it's like a 5 out of 10 as a solo throw. The problem with this monster is she doesn't give you penetration. And I would like to see guaranteed crits, or I would like to see some kind of buff. She also doesn't apply Fortify, or she doesn't apply Crest or field or enemy field. So we're missing some things, some juicy stuff if you're going to throw her as a solo in PvP. But I do like her a lot. Now for PvE, I think she is really good. Again, she has Fortify. She gives you damage reflection. She gives you Miracle, which is good, and Readout. So for really, really difficult PvE quests, I really like her. And just generally in PvE, I also like her. I think I would rate her like a 7 out of 10. Maybe a 6 out of 10 for regular PvE. She applies some really good defensive buffs. So for super difficult quests or quests that are just one-shotting, it can be really oppressive. This is a great monster for new players because it can help them survive the last round. So like surviving against the boss monster for a lot of new players can be super difficult. Because if your bubble pops, then you're vulnerable to getting one shot from any ability. And the Fortify, the Miracle, and the damage reflection all give you some good strengths. She also applies a bubble, which most monsters do nowadays. So I like her. For especially new players, she does not give you the damage that you would want to be able to clear quests. So this is specifically talking about you are with other people and those other people are being useful. Now, if you're solo as a new player, she's basically garbage because she doesn't increase your damage. But I'm assuming in this case that you're trying to complete like the weekly quests from the weekly events or the bi-weekly events, every fortnight. And you're really struggling early on. I think she's not bad. I would not go for her as a new player, but I don't think she's bad. And then I don't think I talked about this. 60k on both rejection, 60 rejection resistance. I've seen quite a few people start using rejection monsters recently. I don't know why. Maybe rejection is just landing more often, but I feel like rejection has kind of been annoying recently. So that's not bad. Blind and Prohibit Unison is incredible. Do not forget that blind can be applied by ninjas, which are super oppressive in the current meta, especially in guild battles, because ninjas are one of the key aspects or key characters that can clear a rook devoted sacrifice. So blind is something that is oppressive, and so is Prohibit Unison. Both of those are huge, heavy hitters in the current guild battle meta. And they've always been really powerful. So it's not like these are going to go away. I would say that these alone make her really, really excellent for even your backline 5 in the future. Plus she gives 1,000 and she gives 60k. So I like the longevity of this monster overall. I think even if you don't use her a whole lot, she should be part of your backline 5 for the blind Prohibit Unison and the light defense. Usually you find that dark monsters do way more damage than light monsters. That's not always the case, but historically, generally speaking, that's the trend. So yeah, I mean, I really like Kantyu. So let's talk about the weapons. Weapons, okay. They give cost and uni, which is exactly what you're wanting for for a lot of these types of procs. They also give crits, which is nice, and they proc on XXL. We are missing some things though, right? So we're missing stuff like success value up. We're missing damage percent up. And we're missing penetration to for PvE, or sorry, not PvE, for PvP, and for fighting enemies, we're missing penetration of damage reflection, damage reduction. We're also missing penetration of nullification and invulnerability. So this is not a top tier proc for PvP specifically, but it is an excellent proc for PvE, so for questing and stuff like that, and also for new players. This is a great proc. You can use it for a long time. The proc rate is excellent, and it's currently what you're looking for. You're guaranteed a crit, you're guaranteed high ability power, you're guaranteed cost, uni, and restoring HP, which is super valuable for new players. This is a great new player proc, but for longtime players and for players that are looking for specifically PvP and guild battle stuff, this is probably not enough. This is not what you're looking for. Now, for the main juice, we got the defense gear, the mastery procs. In my opinion, these are the best procs in the entire game for defense. For new players, I know I just started a new account and I have one of these procs. They're super, super good. Just one of them keeps me alive a lot of the time. I love this type of proc. I think it's super good in this meta. However, I just want to say, just preface that even though this proc is really, really good, there is no way to survive the way that some players are able to build right now in this meta. If they have one of the ravaging procs, which ignores damage reduction and damage reflection, or if they have these new mandate procs that avoid invulnerability and nullification, there is nothing that you can do to survive. So what I have been doing in PvP, I'll just tell you my strategy. I use Mocking Blade. It hits 5 times and it penetrates damage reduction and damage reflection. Then I use these mandate procs, this one, and this one ignores invulnerability and damage nullification. With those two, if I just proc one mandate and I use that ability, there's nothing in the game that can protect them except for total percent downs. So, for example, Guard is a total percent down that reduces damage by 90%. There are some other ones from Soldier that do that as well. This one, 40%. This one is 30%, and they stack too. So there are some other abilities that do this. There are also some procs that do this. I don't have them, but there are some pure damage procs. Bloom was the original one that came out, but it was really bad. There was one that came out, I believe, at the same time. I forgot the name of it, but it's like XL, and it can, I think if you double proc it, it's like 60%. Anyway, if somebody with my amount of attack is coming at you, there is nothing that you can do to stop the incoming damage. Like I have 1.6 mil, excuse me, in total attack. And if I attack somebody and I proc mandate, there's nothing that you can do to survive. So even though I do say, yes, these are the best defense gears in the entire game, just because that sentence, people think, oh, I can get this gear and I can survive against whales. No, this gear won't save you in PvP currently and in guild battles. Now, there's always a chance that they only single proc and you double proc and somehow manage to survive with resurrection. But don't count on these mandate proc or these mastery procs really saving you from a whole lot, except for inexperienced PvP players and PvE quests. I think in quests specifically, they are super valuable. And it is a little bit unfortunate. I'm not sure what exactly the meta right now is super kill heavy. So even though I think these procs are amazing, it's kind of unfortunate that there's no current way of surviving with defense procs alone. You need to use some other stuff in order to survive against somebody who's good at PvP. So yeah, those are my opinions on the light and dark Fatewoven, and I will catch you guys later.